My daughter-in-law got a promotion. She took the whole family out to a restaurant to celebrate, but she didn't invite me. Hours later, I got her text. Mother-in-law, remember to heat up the leftovers in the fridge. Don't waste them. I simply replied, okay. Then I quietly packed my bags and left. That night when they came back laughing and a little tipsy, they opened the door, and what they saw inside left them completely frozen. It was 9:30 at night when my phone vibrated on the kitchen table. I was just sitting there staring at a bowl of instant soup that I didn't even feel like eating. The house smelled like floor cleaner and loneliness. I had spent the whole afternoon cleaning every corner, ironing my son, Daniel's shirts, folding my grandchildren's clothes. My hands still smelled like bleach. I picked up the phone thinking maybe it was my son saying they were on their way, that there was a spot for me at that table where they were celebrating. But no. It was a text from Emily, my daughter-in-law. Mother-in-law, remember to heat up the leftovers in the fridge. Don't waste them. I read those words once, twice, 3 times. I felt something inside my chest quietly shatter, like when a porcelain cup falls, but makes no sound until it's already broken. It wasn't just the text. It was the tone, the mockery hidden behind every word. It was knowing that while I was eating alone in this house, I helped pay for they were toasting with glasses of wine at the Skyline Grill, that place where the cheapest dish costs $85. I opened Instagram. I shouldn't have, but I did. There were the pictures. My son in his white shirt, the one I had ironed that morning. Emily in a tight red dress, smiling like she owned the world. My grandchildren eating shrimp and making funny faces for the camera. My sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, even Emily's mother was there. Everyone but me. The caption read, "Celebrating my queen's promotion, regional manager at 34. Here's to women who never stop." 237 likes in 20 minutes. I closed the app. I left the phone on the table. I looked at my soup getting cold, and then something strange happened. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. An icy calm washed over me, as if my body knew something my mind was still processing. I stood up slowly. I walked to my room, and I opened the closet. Because what they didn't know, what no one at that table full of laughter and toasts could imagine, is that I had been preparing for this moment for months. And this time I wasn't going to heat up their leftovers. This time I was going to disappear. And when they came back that night drunk on wine and arrogance, what they would find behind that door would make them tremble. But for you to understand why I made that decision, I need to tell you how I got here. How a 68-year-old woman who gave everything for her family ended up being treated like an unpaid maid. And if you want to know how this story ends, subscribe to the channel, because what comes next will change the way you see family relationships forever. Let me take you back 3 years to the day I lost everything and gave away what little I had left, not knowing I was signing my own sentence. 3 years and 4 months ago, I buried my husband David, pancreatic cancer. It took him in 6 months so fast, I barely had time to say goodbye. I was left alone in our suburban house, the one with the mosaic patio where we raised Daniel, where we celebrated every birthday, every Christmas. But after the funeral, the silence became unbearable. Every corner screamed his absence. Daniel came to visit me 2 weeks later. He had Emily on his arm, and that smile I knew since he was a boy. The smile he used when he wanted to ask me for something. "Mom," he said while having coffee in the kitchen, "Emily and I are looking for a house. We want something bigger for the kids, but the prices are impossible." Emily nodded, stroking her mug with her perfectly painted coral nails. "The down payment for the house we want is $68,000. We've been saving for a year, but we only have half." They didn't need to say more. "How much do you need?" I asked. Daniel looked down. "If you sold this house, Mom, you could come live with us. You wouldn't be alone. The kids adore you. It's a win-win." Emily smiled. "It would be perfect, mother-in-law. You help us with the kids, we take care of you, like a real family." That word. Family. I signed the sale papers 3 weeks later. The suburban house with its high ceilings and 42 years of memories sold for $120,000. I gave Daniel $68,000 for the down payment. I put the rest in a savings account thinking it was my safety net. What I didn't do, and this is what weighs on me the most to this day, was put my name on the deed of the new house. Daniel told me it wasn't necessary, that the house was for everyone. Why complicate the paperwork? And I, like an idiot, trusted him. The house was in a gated community with a security booth. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a 2-car garage. Nice, modern, cold. The first few months were tolerable. I would get up at 5 in the morning. I'd make coffee the way Daniel likes it, strong with a hint of cinnamon. I'd make breakfast eggs and beans, chilaquiles toast. I'd wake up my grandchildren, Michael 9 and Sarah 6. I'd comb their hair, pack their lunches, and see them off at the school bus stop. Emily would dash out at 7:30, always impeccable in her business suit and her $240 French perfume. She wouldn't even look at me on her way out. Daniel would leave half an hour later. Sometimes he'd kiss my forehead. Sometimes he'd just say, "Thanks, Mom," without looking at me, and I would stay behind clearing plates, doing laundry, mopping floors that never seemed clean enough for Emily, because every afternoon when she returned, she would inspect. She'd run her finger over the shelves looking for dust. She'd open the fridge and frown if something wasn't in its exact place. She'd check the bathrooms like a health inspector. Mother-in-law, the mirrors have spots. Mother-in-law, Michael's shirt isn't ironed well. Mother-in-law, why did you use so much detergent? It's more expensive. Never Beatrice, never Mrs. Betty, as my friends called me, just mother-in-law, as if it were a title, not a name. The kids loved me. That was real. Michael would hug me when he got home from school. Sarah would fall asleep on my lap while I read her stories. But whenever Emily saw us together, her face would harden. One day Sarah said, "Grandma, I love you more than Mommy," right in front of Emily. That night I heard shouting from their bedroom, "Your mother is spoiling my children, Daniel. She gives them everything they ask for. She indulges them, fills their heads with nonsense. She's my mom, Emily. Leave her alone. Your mom or the maid who doesn't pay rent." Silence. I waited for Daniel to defend me, to say something, anything. But he didn't. And that's when I knew I had crossed an invisible line. I was no longer the helpful mother-in-law. I was the burden they endured. The months passed, and the humiliations became more subtle but more constant. Emily would organize family dinners and forget to tell me until the last minute. Her friends would come over and she'd introduce me as Daniel's mom, who helps us with the house, never as part of the family. They stopped including me in photos. At Christmas, when they took the family picture in front of the tree, Emily asked me to take it. "You have a steadier hand, mother-in-law." I stood behind the camera while they smiled like a Christmas card. That photo ended up framed in the living room. I don't appear anywhere in this house. It's like I'm a ghost. And the worst part is, I started to feel that way, invisible, disposable, as if my only value was keeping the house running while they lived their perfect lives. But all that humiliation built up over 3 years, was nothing compared to what would happen that March night, the night I received that text about the leftovers in the fridge. Because that night, something inside me woke up, and there was no going back. It all started that Thursday morning when Emily came down the stairs practically floating. She was wearing her pearl gray suit, the one she saved for important meetings, and a smile that lit up her whole face. "I got it," she shouted as Daniel came down behind her, tying his tie. "What happened, Mommy?" Sarah asked from the table, her mouth full of pancakes. "I got promoted, sweetie. Your mommy is the new regional operations manager, the youngest in the company's history." Daniel hugged her and lifted her off the ground. "I knew you'd get it. I knew that position was yours." I was by the stove, flipping pancakes. "Congratulations, Emily," I said sincerely, because no matter how tense things were, I didn't wish her ill. She barely glanced at me. "Thanks, mother-in-law." And she stayed in Daniel's arms. "We have to celebrate," my son said, "in a big way, like my wife deserves." "Should we go to the Skyline Grill?" Emily suggested, her eyes sparkling. "The one I told you about with the view of the city skyline. Whatever it is, money is no object tonight." Michael raised his hand like in school. "Am I going to—" "Of course, champ. The whole family." My heart skipped a little beat. The whole family. That included me, right? I put the pancakes on the table and wiped my hands on my apron. "What time should I make the reservation?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Emily looked at me as if she had just realized I was still there. "Reservation for what?" The table for the family dinner." There was an awkward silence. Daniel cleared his throat. Emily exchanged a look with him, one of those looks that speak without words. "Oh, no, mother-in-law," Emily said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It's an intimate dinner. You know, just us the kids, my mom who's coming from upstate, direct family." Those words stabbed my chest like shards of glass. "I understand," I said, and went back to the stove even though there was nothing left to flip. "Besides," Emily continued, spreading butter on her toast, "someone has to stay with the house, right? We can't just leave it empty, and you cook so well, I'm sure you'll make yourself something delicious." Daniel said nothing. My son, the boy I raised, whom I defended from every blow life threw at him, just stared silently at his plate of eggs. They all left at 11 in the morning. Emily changed her outfit 3 times. The kids were excited in their Sunday best. Daniel gave me a quick kiss on the forehead, so automatic he didn't even look me in the eye. "Don't wait up for us, Mom. We're going to be late." And they left. The house fell silent, a silence so heavy I could barely breathe. I walked through the living room, through the dining room with its glass table that I cleaned every day, through the kitchen, where I spent hours preparing meals they barely thanked me for. Everything was spotless, everything was in order, and I was completely alone. I made myself some instant soup, the kind they sell in packs of 3 for $2. I sat at the kitchen table, not in the dining room. The help doesn't eat in the dining room. And that's what I was now, right? The help. The help who paid $68,000 for the privilege of working for free. At 7 in the evening, I opened Instagram. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I needed to confirm what I already knew. Maybe I'm a masochist. There they were, the first photo. Emily radiant in her red dress holding a glass of sparkling wine. Thanks to everyone for joining me on this special day. The second photo. My grandchildren with huge plates of breaded shrimp and French fries. Michael had sauce on his chin. Sarah was making a victory sign with her fingers. The third photo. The whole table. I counted 9 people. Daniel, Emily, the kids, Emily's mom, her sister, her brother-in-law, and 2 other people I didn't recognize. Friends, probably. 9 people celebrating, laughing, toasting, and me eating instant soup in a kitchen I helped pay for. I looked at the comments. 184 in the first hour. "Congratulations, Queen. You deserve it. Cheers to successful women. What a beautiful family." No one asked about me. No one noticed someone was missing because I had been invisible for a long time. I closed the app, washed my bowl, dried the table, and then my phone vibrated. Emily's text. "Mother-in-law, remember to heat up the leftovers in the fridge. Don't waste them." I read those words and something inside me died, but at the same time something else woke up. I opened the fridge. There they were, a half-eaten rotisserie chicken from yesterday rice from Monday vegetables I had bought and cooked. Leftovers. That's what I deserved according to them. Their leftovers. Their contempt wrapped in polite words. I closed the fridge, took a deep breath, and wrote my reply. Okay. 2 letters. Nothing more. But in those 2 letters was a decision that had been taking shape in my head for months, since the first time Emily treated me like a maid, since Daniel stopped defending me, since I understood I had given my entire life for a family that no longer saw me as part of it. I went up to my room, opened the closet, and took out the suitcase, because what they didn't know, what they would never imagine while toasting with $320 bottles of wine, is that I had been preparing for this moment for 6 months. 6 months of saving documents, recording conversations, taking pictures, building a case, because it turns out this invisible mother-in-law, this unpaid maid, this 68-year-old woman they treated like a dish rag had the deed to the house. And she had never, ever transferred it to Daniel's name. This house was mine, legally, completely mine. And they were about to find out in the worst way possible. I took the large suitcase out of the closet, the one David and I used for our last trip to the coast. It still had the hotel tag stuck to the corner. I put it on the bed and started filling it with my clothes, my shoes, the pictures of my husband I kept on the nightstand. But before folding the first blouse, I stopped. Because this couldn't just be a tantrum. It couldn't be a dramatic exit that would end with me begging to come back in a week. This had to be final, calculated, just. I walked to the back of the closet and moved the shoe boxes I never use. Behind them, wrapped in a plastic bag, was my old sewing box, the one my mother gave me when I got married. I opened it and took out what I had hidden there for months, a hardcover spiral-bound notebook. Everything was in that notebook. Every dollar I invested in this house since the day we moved in. Every receipt, every proof of payment. 3 years of my life documented in the shaky handwriting of a woman who sensed she might need it one day. I turned the pages slowly. August 2022. Down payment on the house, $68,000. September 2022. New refrigerator, $1,890. Washer and dryer, $2,450. October 2022. Living room set, because Emily said the one they brought from their apartment was too old, $3,200. November 2022. Repair of the burst pipe, $870. The list went on and on and on. A 55-inch TV for the living room, $2,200. New mattresses for the bedrooms, $3,800. The master bathroom remodel that Emily desperately wanted, $6,500. And then there were the monthly expenses. Because Daniel only paid $480 a month. That's all he could afford on his salary. But the actual mortgage was $1,400 a month. Who paid the other $920 I did? Every month, without fail, for 3 years. From my widow's pension of $1,600 a month, I contributed $920 to maintain the house where I lived like a servant. I did a quick calculation on the last page of my notebook. Down payment and initial furniture, $84,730. Monthly mortgage contributions, 36 months, times $920, $33,120. Repairs, improvements, and extra expenses, $18,950. Total invested, $136,800. $136,800. Almost everything I received from the sale of my suburban house. Everything David and I built over 42 years of marriage. Invested in a house where they treated me worse than a stranger. But the most important thing, the thing that gave me real power, was hidden at the bottom of the sewing box. I reached in and pulled out a yellowish manila envelope. Inside were the original deeds to the house. I opened them with trembling hands. There it was in the notary's handwriting, clear as day. Property located at 847 Jurist Circuit, Satellite City, Community, Naucalpan. Owner Beatrice Socorro Mendoza, widow of Torres. My name, only my name. When we bought the house, the notary explained that since I put down the full down payment, it was safest to put everything in my name first. "You can do the transfer whenever you want later, ma'am," he said, "but this way you're protected if anything happens." Daniel agreed. "It's better this way, Mom. Safer for you." And then we never did the transfer. He'd ask about it occasionally in the first few months. "We need to go to the notary, Mom, to change the deeds." But there was always something more urgent. We always put it off until he stopped asking. And I consciously or unconsciously never reminded him. Now I understood why. Some part of me, the part that survived 42 years of marriage that raised a son alone while David worked 12 hours a day, that part knew I needed protection. That part saved me. I put the deeds back in the envelope, but I didn't put it in the suitcase just yet. First, I took out my phone and dialed a number I had saved for months. "Hello?" a young professional voice answered. "Megan, it's your Aunt Beatrice." "Aunt B, what a surprise. How are you?" Megan was my niece, my younger sister's daughter, a lawyer specializing in family law. 38 years old, 2 kids, a recent divorce that made her fierce in court. "I need your help," I said. "It's urgent. Can you come over early tomorrow?" There was a pause. "Aunt B, are you okay?" "Your voice sounds strange." "I'm perfect. For the first time in 3 years, I'm perfect. But I need your help with a legal matter about my house." "Your house? I thought you were living with Daniel and Emily." "Exactly. That's why I'm calling." I heard Megan grab a pen and paper. "Tell me everything." I explained the situation in 15 minutes. The down payment, the deeds, the payments, the humiliation, the text about the leftovers. When I finished, Megan let out a low whistle. "Aunt B, are you telling me that house is completely in your name and they don't know it?" "That's right. And you have proof of everything you've invested, every receipt, every transfer, everything." "Oh my God," I heard Megan typing on her computer. "Aunt B, this is legal gold. You have a solid case, rock solid." "What can I do?" "Whatever you want. You can evict them. You can charge them back rent. You can sell the house. Legally, they are your tenants without a lease. They have no rights to the property." I felt a smile spread across my face. Not a happy smile, a smile of justice. "I'll be at your office tomorrow at 8 in the morning. I'll be waiting, Aunt B, and bring all the papers, deeds, receipts, proofs of payment, everything." I hung up and took a deep breath. Then I dialed another number. "Hello?" A male voice, hoarse with sleep, answered. "Mr. Hector, it's Beatrice Torres. I'm sorry to call so late." "Mrs. Betty, what happened? Are you okay?" Mr. Hector was a close family friend, a notary for 30 years. He handled David's will and the deeds for this house. "I need you to review some documents tomorrow about the house in the community." "Did something happen?" "Let's just say I'm going to assert my rights." I heard Mr. Hector shift in his chair. "Are Daniel and his wife giving you trouble?" "You could say that." "Oh, Mrs. Betty, I warned you not to transfer the house until you were sure." "I know, my friend, and you were right. That's why I'm calling. I need your advice." "My office 10 o'clock tomorrow, and bring everything." "I'll be there." I hung up and dialed the last number. This one was the hardest. "Beatrice," my friend Linda answered. "What are you doing up at this hour?" Linda and I had known each other for 40 years. We were neighbors back in the suburbs. Our sons grew up together. She was widowed 2 years before me. "Linda, is the room you were going to rent still available?" "The one upstairs, yes, why? Can I move in tomorrow?" Silence. What happened, my friend? And then for the first time all night my voice broke. "I can't do it anymore, Linda. I can't keep being invisible in my own house." "You come tomorrow," Linda said in a firm voice. "Whenever you want. I'll be waiting." I hung up the phone, and then yes, I allowed myself to cry. But I didn't cry from sadness. I cried from relief. Because after 3 years of humiliation, I was finally going to get my dignity back. And they, all of them toasting with expensive wine, while I ate leftovers, were about to learn the hardest lesson of their lives. It was 10:15 at night. I still had time. According to their Instagram stories, they were on dessert, a chocolate raspberry tower that cost $34 a slice. I figured they'd be home after midnight, maybe 1 in the morning. I had 3 hours, maybe 4, if they kept toasting. I went back to my room and really started packing. But not all my clothes, just the essentials, what was truly mine. Because I had learned something important in these 3 years. They had gotten used to the idea that everything of mine was also theirs. The woven blanket my mother gave me, the silver rosary David bought me in Mexico, my wedding photos, the books I had collected for years, my Italian coffee maker I brought from my old house. Every object I put in the suitcase was a piece of my recovered identity. But there was something more important to pack. I opened my dresser drawer and took out a small digital recorder I had bought downtown 6 months ago. It cost $45 at an electronics store, the best investment I'd made in years. Because it turns out that when you become invisible, people talk in front of you as if you don't exist. I connected the recorder to my old laptop and started copying the files to a USB drive. File 1, October 15th, 2024. Emily's voice on the phone with her sister. "No, seriously, it's like having a free maid. She gets up early, cooks, cleans, takes care of the kids. And the best part is I don't have to pay her or give her days off because she's family. Daniel feels guilty sometimes, but I tell him she's better off here than alone in a nursing home." Her laugh. I remembered that laugh perfectly. File 2, November 23rd, 2024. A conversation between Emily and Daniel in their bedroom. I was cleaning the bathroom. "Your mom is getting really annoying, Daniel. She wants to have an opinion on everything, on how I raise my kids, on what I buy at the supermarket. She's my mom, Emily. She just wants to help. Helping is getting in the way, And every time the kids listen to her more than me, my blood boils. Sarah told me the other day that Grandma cooks better than me. Do you realize what that means? Emily, please. No, Daniel, seriously. When she dies, your dad left a good pension. She served her purpose. Maybe it's time for her to find her own space, a small apartment or a nice retirement home. I can't just kick her out. She's my mother. You don't have to kick her out. Just suggest that she'd be happier somewhere else for her own good. Silence from my son. And then, I'll think about it. I'll think about it. My son, my only son, was going to think about it. File 3, January 8th, 2025. Emily with her friends in the living room drinking wine while I prepared snacks in the kitchen. You guys have no idea how lucky I am. My mother-in-law does everything in the house so I can focus on my career. That's why I got the promotion, because I don't have to worry about anything domestic. And she doesn't charge you. Charge me. She lives here for free. Of course she doesn't charge. Besides, she sold her house and gave Daniel the money. It's like her way of paying to live with us. More laughter. You're so smart, girl. Take advantage of it while she can still work. When she gets too old, you'll figure something out. There were 17 files in total. 17 recordings of conversations where they treated me like a commodity, like a useful object that would eventually be discarded. I copied everything to the USB drive and saved another copy to my email just in case. Then I took something else out of the drawer, my old phone, the one I used before Daniel gave me a new one, so you can use WhatsApp more easily. What he didn't know is that I never threw the old one away. And on that phone, I had taken pictures of the receipts Emily threw in the trash, screenshots of her social media posts where she bragged about the house, the furniture, the renovations, always with the hashtag #myhouse, #personal achievements. My house, my achievements. Never our house, never thanks to the family. I copied all the photos to the same USB drive. It was 11:15. Instagram showed they were still at the restaurant. Now they were having coffee and cognac. I still had time. I went downstairs silently. The house was dimly lit, only the hallway light was on. I walked through the living room. I stopped in front of each piece of furniture I had bought. The 3-seater sofa, $3,200. The glass coffee table, $850. The wooden bookshelf where Emily put her decorative plants, $1,200. But I wasn't going to take any of it. It wasn't my style. I wasn't going to empty the house like a thief in the night. I was only going to take what was indisputably mine. My clothes, my memories, my dignity, and the deeds. I went back upstairs and finished closing the suitcase. It was quite heavy, but I could manage. I sat on the edge of the bed and took out a sheet of paper and a pen. I had to leave them something. I couldn't just disappear without a word. But I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me beg or explain. I wrote in clear handwriting. Daniel. For 3 years, I lived in this house as an invisible maid. I cooked, cleaned, cared for your children, paid bills, and swallowed humiliations in silence. Tonight, while you celebrated Emily's promotion and sent me a text to heat up leftovers, I made a decision. I will no longer be the ghost of this family. You will find documents on your nightstand. Read them carefully. We will see each other soon with lawyers present. I have loved you my whole life, but love doesn't mean letting you walk all over me. Mom. I folded the letter and placed it on his pillow on his side of the bed. Then I took out the manila envelope with the deeds. Inside, I placed a yellow sticky note. This house is in my name. It always was, and I have proof of every dollar I invested in it. $136,800 to be exact. See you at the notary's office. I left the envelope on Daniel's nightstand clearly visible. I checked my phone. 11:28 at night. The last story showed they were asking for the check. It was time to go. I carried the suitcase down carefully. My 68-year-old legs protested, but they held up. I paused at the front door. I took one last look at this house I helped build. At the floors I mopped 1,000 times. At the walls I painted when we moved in. At the kitchen where I prepared thousands of meals that no one appreciated. I didn't feel sadness. I felt freedom. I locked the door, and for the first time in 3 years, I didn't leave the key in the lock on the inside. I took it with me. After all, it was my house. I called an Uber from the corner. The driver, a man in his 50s, helped me with the suitcase. "Long trip, ma'am?" he asked as we pulled away. I looked out the window at the house receding in the darkness. "No," I replied. "It's a journey back to myself." As the car moved through the empty streets of the community, I imagined the scene to come. Daniel, Emily, the kids all entering the house, their cheeks flushed with wine and laughter, turning on the lights, calling for me to tell them about the wonderful dinner they had, and finding silence, going upstairs confused, opening my bedroom door, empty, entering their bedroom, seeing the envelope, reading the letter, and understanding everything. I smiled in the darkness of the car. Tonight they would return laughing to a house they thought was theirs, and I would sleep peacefully for the first time in 3 years. At my friend Linda's house, knowing that I had finally found my voice again. Tomorrow the legal war would begin, but tonight was just for me, to celebrate that the invisible maid had finally woken up, and she had fangs. I wasn't there when they arrived. But Michael told me everything 3 days later when he came looking for me at Linda's house crying. Let me reconstruct that night as my grandson narrated it to me with tears rolling down his cheeks. It was 1:23 in the morning when Daniel's car entered the gated community. The security guard waved them through with a greeting. The guard later told me they were laughing loudly with the music turned all the way up. Emily was leaning on Daniel's shoulder. She had drunk 3 glasses of red wine, 2 of champagne, and a shot of tequila with which they made a final toast. Daniel wasn't sober either. He'd had 2 double whiskeys and several beers. The kids were asleep in the back seat. They parked the car. Emily almost tripped, getting out laughing at her heels. Daniel caught her by the waist, playing around, kissing her neck. "Regional manager," he whispered. "My wife, the manager." "And you the husband of the year," she replied, hanging on his arm. They walked up the porch steps. Daniel fumbled for the keys in his pocket, staggering a bit. "Shh," Emily said between laughs. "Don't wake up your mom." "Let her sleep," Daniel replied. "She deserves it after taking care of the house all night." They opened the door. Everything was dark, just the upstairs hallway light on, as I always left it so they wouldn't trip. "Mom!" Daniel called as he entered. His voice was slurred. Silence. Emily turned on the living room light. And then they saw it. The living room was different. Not empty, but different. The Persian rug I had brought from my old house was gone, the one my mother bought on a trip down south 50 years ago. The embroidered cushions on the sofa were gone, the ones I had embroidered myself over months. The pictures on the walls were gone. My pictures. Landscapes from the coast that David gave me on our anniversaries. "What?" Emily frowned. "Did your mom move things around?" Daniel walked to the kitchen. He turned on the light. The Italian coffee maker was gone. The ceramic mugs I collected were gone too. The apron that always hung on the hook next to the fridge had disappeared. "Mom!" he called out louder. "Where are you?" They went upstairs. Michael told me that's when the alcohol started to wear off. My door was ajar. Daniel pushed it open. He turned on the light. The bed was made, perfectly made as I always left it. But empty. The closet was open, empty of my clothes. Only the hangers remained, the nightstand without my books, my glasses, my rosary, as if I had never existed in that room. "What the hell?" Emily muttered behind him. Daniel ran to the bathroom. My toothbrush was gone. My face cream, my comb, my cheap rose-scented perfume. All gone. He went back to the room, and that's when he saw it. Their bed, on his pillow, a folded letter. He grabbed it with trembling hands. He unfolded it. Emily read over his shoulder. Michael told me his father's face changed as he read, from confusion to disbelief, from disbelief to horror. "What does it say?" Emily asked. "Did she leave? Did your mom leave?" But Daniel didn't answer. He had seen the manila envelope on his nightstand. He opened it with clumsy fingers. He took out the deeds to the house, and he read the name written there in official notary script. "No," he whispered. "No, no, No. What is it? Emily snatched the papers from him. Her eyes scanned the document. Once, twice, and then she turned pale. This can't be real. The house is in her name, Daniel said in a hollow voice. The whole house. It was always in her name. But you paid the down payment. You told me. She paid the down payment. Daniel sat down heavily on the bed. She sold her house, $68,000. I didn't have anything. It all came from her. Emily took the yellow sticky note that was attached to the deeds. $136,800 to be exact. $136,000. Emily swayed. Are you telling me your mom invested over $100,000 in this house? And we never did the transfer. Oh my God, Emily, we never transferred the property. The silence that followed was deafening. Michael told me he woke up to the shouting. He came downstairs rubbing his eyes and found his parents in the living room arguing. While his mom was shouting, his dad had his head in his hands. This can't be happening. Emily paced back and forth like a caged animal. We've lived here for 3 years. 3 years. This is my house. It's her house, Daniel said in a dead voice. Legally, it was always her house. Then you demand that she give it to you. She's your mother. She has an obligation to... An obligation. Daniel looked up. His eyes were red. Like the obligation we had to treat her with respect, to not exclude her from dinner tonight. Emily was speechless. We left her alone. Daniel continued, his voice cracking. In her own house, we left her eating leftovers while we spent $300 on wine. Daniel, you sent her that text, that damn text about heating up the leftovers from the fridge. Emily's mouth fell open. She closed it. She turned even paler. It wasn't with bad intentions. It was just... What a joke was humiliating her funny to you? For the first time in 3 years, my son defended my honor. But it was too late. Michael was crying on the stairs, listening to everything. Sarah woke up and started calling for her grandma. Where's Grandma? I want my grandma. Daniel dialed my number. Once, twice, 5, 10 times. I had silenced his contact. He sent texts. Mom, please answer me. Mom, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. Mom, we can fix this, please. Mom, please don't do this. None of them got a reply because at that moment, I was at Linda's house drinking chamomile tea with honey wrapped in a clean blanket that smelled of fabric softener, sleeping the deepest and most peaceful sleep I'd had in 3 years. Emily tried one last card that night. Let's call a lawyer tomorrow. I'm sure we can contest those deeds. We've been living here for 3 years. That gives us rights, good faith possession or something. Daniel looked at her with a mixture of disgust and disappointment. You still don't get it. She has everything documented. Every dollar, every receipt, and worse. He ran his hands over his face. She's right. We treated her like trash. I let you treat her like trash. He stood up and walked to the kids' room. Michael told me his dad hugged him that night and cried. He cried like Michael hadn't seen him cry since Grandpa David died. I ruined everything, he told his 9-year-old son. I lost Grandma because I was an idiot. That night, no one slept in the house they thought was theirs, the house that was always mine. And while they wandered through the rooms empty of my things, trying to understand how everything fell apart, in one night I slept in peace. Because sometimes silence is the most powerful weapon, and sometimes disappearing is the only way to finally be seen. I woke up at 7 in the morning at Linda's house. Natural light streamed through the window. Birds were singing outside. The smell of fresh coffee wafted up from the kitchen. It had been 3 years since I'd woken up without a knot in my stomach. I stretched in bed. No one was waiting for me downstairs to demand breakfast. No one would check if I had cleaned the bathroom properly. No one would give me orders disguised as suggestions. I was free. My phone had 32 notifications, 23 missed calls from Daniel, 15 WhatsApp messages, 4 from Emily, 2 from unknown numbers that were probably meddling relatives who had already heard about the scandal. I didn't open any of them. Instead, I opened Facebook, the social network I hardly ever used, filled with old contacts. Friends from my book club, neighbors from my old suburb, distant cousins, high school classmates I found years ago. 437 friends who barely saw my posts because I never posted anything. Until today, I typed with trembling fingers. After 3 years of caring for a family that made me invisible, I learned that self-love isn't selfishness. It's survival. I hit post and closed the app. I went down for breakfast. Linda was waiting for me with green chilaquiles, refried beans, and coffee with cinnamon. My favorite breakfast. "How did you sleep?" she asked, pouring me orange juice. "Like I haven't slept in years." "And what's next?" "Now," I said, cutting a piece of chilaquil, "comes the legal part." At 8 o'clock sharp, I was at Megan's office. My niece greeted me with a strong hug and a cup of coffee. "Aunt B, you're a legend. I couldn't sleep last night thinking about your case. Did you bring everything?" I took out the manila envelope with the deeds, the notebook with the receipts, the USB drive with the recordings, and the photos from the old phone from my bag. Megan spread everything out on her desk like a detective building a case. "This is it, Aunt B. This is perfect. You have impeccable documentation." She reviewed each paper with shining eyes. "Deeds in your name, proof of payment, bank transfers, even recordings." She plugged the USB into her computer and listened to a few snippets of the recordings. Her expression changed, from professional to indignant. "Like having a free maid. When the old woman dies, she served her purpose." Megan clenched her fists. "Aunt B, with this we can do whatever you want. Immediate eviction, collection of back rent, compensation for moral damages. Tell me what you need and we'll do it." "I need," I said slowly, "for them to understand what they lost, for them to feel what I felt, and for them to learn that love isn't free when you confuse it with servitude." Megan nodded. "Then we're going to give them a lesson they won't forget." We spent 3 hours planning the strategy: lawyers' letters, subpoenas, property appraisals, calculations of back rent based on the commercial value of the area. At 11 in the morning, Megan sent the first official document. A legal summons. Mrs. Beatrice Socorro Mendoza, legal owner of the property located at 847 Jurist Circuit. Naucalpan requires the presence of Mr. Daniel Torres Mendoza and Mrs. Emily Ruiz de Torres at the offices of Notary Hector Salinas Bravo on Monday, March 18th at 10:00 a.m. to resolve matters of property and occupancy. Attendance is mandatory. Please present with official identification. The email was sent at 11:47 a.m. Meanwhile, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Finally, at noon, I checked the messages. From Daniel. "Mom, please, we need to talk. This is a misunderstanding. I didn't know the house was in your name. I never meant to disrespect you. The kids are asking for you. Michael is crying. Sarah doesn't understand what happened. Mom, you're my mom. We can't end like this." From Emily. "Mother-in-law, I think this is all getting out of proportion. If you were bothered by last night's message, I apologize. It was a misunderstanding. Daniel is very upset. The kids are too. Please reconsider. Can't we talk like civilized adults?" I noticed the change in tone, from bossy mother-in-law to pleading mother-in-law, but I didn't reply. Instead, I opened Facebook. My post had 243 reactions, 189 comments. I started reading. "Beatrice, I didn't know you were going through this. I always saw you as such a strong woman. I'm glad you found your voice." Rosa, my old neighbor. "My friend, I've been living with my son and his wife for 2 years. I identify so much with this, you made me cry. Thank you for sharing." Patricia from the book club. "My mom went through something similar. She ended up in the hospital from stress. I wish she'd had your courage." A cousin I hadn't seen in years. This hit me hard. All older women deserve respect, not crumbs. Mrs. Guadalupe, a childhood friend. And so they continued. Comment after comment from women sharing their own stories. Women living with their children being treated as unpaid caregivers. Women who had lost their homes, their savings, their dignity. My little post had become a refuge for silenced voices. At 3 in the afternoon, my sister called. "Beatrice, what's going on? Daniel called me crying. He says you left the house." I left my house, I corrected, where I was living as a domestic servant. But he's your son, it's family. Family doesn't humiliate, Susan. Family doesn't make you feel invisible. Family doesn't send you mocking texts about heating up leftovers while they celebrate without you. Silence on the other end. They did that. I told her everything, every detail of the last 3 years. When I finished, my sister was crying. "Forgive me," she said. "I thought you were happy there. I thought it was a good arrangement." Everyone thought that because I smiled and didn't complain, but smiling doesn't mean you're happy. At 5 in the evening, my brother-in-law, Susan's husband, called Daniel. He didn't answer. He left him a message that Daniel later showed me. "Nephew, you made a grave mistake. Your mother is a woman of honor and you treated her like a doormat. Now you pay the consequences and learn your lesson." The cracks were starting to show. The family, which always assumes the children are right, was beginning to question. At 7 in the evening, Linda's phone rang. It was the next-door neighbor from my old house. "Mrs. Betty, I just wanted to tell you that everyone in the community knows what happened, and you are completely right. I saw you every day taking out the trash, washing their car, buying groceries, and they never even thanked you. How did they find out? Emily went to the store this afternoon. Her eyes were swollen from crying. And when Mrs. Carmela asked her what was wrong, she exploded. She blamed you for everything, that you were ungrateful, that you left them on the street, that you were being selfish." I felt my blood boil. "And what did the neighbors say?" The woman laughed. "Mrs. Carmela told her that you were the owner of the house and had every right to leave whenever you wanted, that she would have done the same thing. And the other ladies said worse things." Emily ran back home. For the first time in 3 years, the neighbors who silently watched my suffering raised their voices. That night before going to sleep, I checked Facebook again. My post had 420 reactions, 352 comments, and something more. 23 women had sent me private messages telling me their stories of mistreated mothers-in-law, of forgotten mothers, of exploited grandmothers. One woman wrote, "Beatrice, thank you for speaking up. You gave me the courage to leave my daughter's house. I'm looking for an apartment tomorrow." Another said, "I've been taking care of my grandkids for free for 5 years, while my daughter-in-law goes out to have fun. After reading your story tomorrow, I will tell her she can't keep taking advantage of me." My story, my pain, my broken silence was giving other women the strength to find their voice. And that, more than any house or deed or money, filled my heart. Because it turns out, my revenge wasn't just personal, it was collective. Daniel texted me at 11 at night. "Mom, we received the lawyer's summons. Please don't do this. We're family." For the first time in 48 hours, I replied, "Family is what you build with respect, son, not with blood and obligations. See you on Monday at the notary's office." And I turned off my phone, because the storm was just beginning, and I, for the first time in years, was the lightning. Sunday was the longest day of my life. Daniel showed up at Linda's house at 9 in the morning. He rang the doorbell insistently until my friend opened the door. "You can't see her," Linda said, firmly blocking the entrance. "She's my mother, ma'am, please. She's a woman who is finally resting after 3 years of exploitation, and I'm not going to let you disturb her." But I heard the voices from upstairs. I came down the stairs slowly. Daniel looked terrible. Deep dark circles under his eyes, unshaven, the same wrinkled shirt from Friday. He looked like he had aged 10 years in 2 days. "Mom!" His voice broke when he saw me. "Daniel, please, we need to talk." Linda looked at me. I nodded. "It's okay. Let him in." We sat in Linda's small living room. She stayed nearby, a silent guardian. Daniel didn't know where to start. He ran his hands through his hair. He bit his lips. Finally, he spoke. "I didn't know the house was in your name." "I know." "Why did you never tell me that question, that damned question?" "I did tell you, Daniel. For the first 6 months, I reminded you every 2 weeks. Son, we need to go to the notary to do the transfer. Do you remember what you'd say?" He looked down. "Later, Mom, we're really busy with the move right now." "Next week, Mom." "There's no rush, Mom. We're family after all." And then you stopped responding, and I stopped asking, because a part of me, the wise part that survived 42 years of marriage, knew I would need that protection. Protection from me, your own son. From the situation, I corrected. From becoming what I became, a domestic servant in my own house. Daniel covered his face with his hands. I never wanted you to feel that way. But I did feel that way, every day for 3 years. Emily, she can be harsh sometimes, but she's not a bad person. Daniel, do you know how much your mother invested in that house? He swallowed hard. The deeds say $136,800. Exactly. Do you know where that money came from? From the sale of the house in the suburbs. From the sale of the house where your father and I lived for 42 years. Where we raised you. Where we celebrated every one of your birthdays. Where your father died in my bed holding my hand. My voice cracked. I sold my memories, Daniel. I sold the last piece of your father I had left, and I did it for you. Daniel started to cry. Thick tears fell onto his hands. Mom, do you know how much you paid for the mortgage each month? $480. And do you know what the actual mortgage payment was? Silence. $1,400. I paid the other $920 every month from my $1,600 pension. Do you know what that means? He looked up confused. It means that after paying my share of the house, I had $680 a month left for all my expenses. Clothes, medicine, transportation, anything personal. $680 while Emily was spending $300 on a single bottle of wine. Daniel turned pale. I didn't know. You didn't know because you never asked. You assumed I was fine, that I was happy, that taking care of your kids and cleaning your house was enough purpose for me. Mom, I stood up and went to my purse. I took out the hardcover notebook. I placed it on the coffee table. Open it. With trembling hands, Daniel opened the notebook and began to read. Page after page of taped receipts, proof of transfers, notes in my handwriting. Refrigerator, $1,890. Washer and dryer, $2,450. Complete living room set, $3,200. Master bathroom remodel, $6,500. TV for living room, $2,200. His voice was a whisper. My God. Keep reading. He reached the final pages, the monthly calculations, 36 months of contributions, the final total. Over $130,000, he whispered. And that's not counting, I added coldly, the 3 meals a day I cooked. The cleaning, the childcare, the laundry, the ironing. If we put a price on all that work at the rate of a live-in domestic worker, that's another $40,000 approximately. Daniel closed the notebook. He was trembling. I don't have $130,000 to pay you. I know. I don't even have $20,000 in savings. I know that too. So what do you want? The house. Are you going to kick us out onto the street? And there it was, the $1,000,000 question. I took a deep breath. I want, I said slowly, you to understand what you lost. It wasn't just a house. It wasn't just furniture or money. You lost your mother. You lost me. I haven't lost you. You're right here. When was the last time you asked me how I was, how I slept, if my back hurt from cleaning so much, if I missed your father, if I felt lonely? Silence. When was the last time you hugged me without it being in passing, that you sat down with me for coffee, that you really looked me in the eyes? More silence. I became a service, Daniel, not your mother, and you let it happen. I'm sorry, he sobbed. I'm so sorry. I know, but sorry doesn't give me back 3 years of my life. It doesn't give me back my dignity. I then took the USB drive out of my pocket. I placed it on the table next to the notebook. What is that? He asked, wiping his tears. Listen to it when you get home, but do it alone. Emily can't be there. Why? Because if you listen to it together, you'll end up getting a divorce tonight. And even though your wife made my life impossible, your children don't deserve a broken home. Daniel picked up the USB drive as if it were a bomb. "Mom, what's on here?" "The truth. 17 recordings of conversations where Emily talks about me when she thinks I'm not listening. Where she plans how to get rid of me. Where she makes fun of me with her friends." I saw his face crumble. "Listen to it. All of it. And then you decide if you want us to meet at the notary's office tomorrow with your wife present, or if you'd rather we talk just the two of us first." He stood up, staggering a bit. He grabbed the USB drive and the notebook. "Mom, Monday, at 10 o'clock sharp, Daniel, at Notary Salinas' office. You decide who comes with you." He walked to the door. He stopped with his hand on the knob. "Is there anything I can do to fix this?" "Yes," I said. "You can learn, you can change, and you can teach your children that elderly people are not furniture, that your mother was not a servant, that love and respect are not optional in a family." He left without another word. Linda sat next to me and held me as I cried. "Did you do the right thing?" she asked softly. "I don't know, but I did what was necessary." That afternoon, Michael came to Linda's house alone. He rang the doorbell, and when I opened it, he threw himself into my arms, crying, "Grandma, I miss you so much." I held him tight, breathing in the smell of his hair. My grandson, my beloved grandson, who was not to blame for any of this. "I miss you too, my love." "Why did you leave?" I knelt to be at his level. Because sometimes when someone treats you badly for a long time, you have to walk away to remind them that you're important. But we don't treat you badly. "I know, sweetie. You guys love me, but your parents forgot how to treat me right. Dad is really sad, and Mom won't stop crying. I know. Are you coming back?" I looked into his eyes, those 9-year-old eyes full of confusion and innocence. "I don't know, Michael, but what I do know is that I love you and that none of this is your fault. Do you understand?" He nodded, wiping his tears with the cuff of his sweater. We spent 2 hours together. We ate cookies. I read him a story. We played dominoes like we used to. When Daniel came to pick him up, my son's face was devastated. "Did you listen to it?" I asked from the doorway. He nodded without speaking. "All of it." He nodded again. "Then I'll see you tomorrow." I didn't sleep well that night because I knew the next day would define everything. Because tomorrow in that notary's office, it wouldn't just be the fate of a house that would be decided. It would be decided if a broken family could heal or if some fractures are too deep to repair. On Monday at 9:30 in the morning, I arrived at Notary Salinas' office. Megan accompanied me, her leather briefcase full of documents. She looked like a movie lawyer, black pantsuit heels hair tied back in a perfect bun. "Ready, Aunt B?" she asked as we climbed the stairs of the colonial building in downtown Coyoacan. "Ready?" Mr. Hector welcomed us into his office with its high ceilings and old mahogany furniture. It smelled of old books and coffee. "Mrs. Betty," he greeted me with a fatherly hug. "I'm so sorry things have come to this." "Me too, my friend. But here we are." We sat down. The clock read 9:47. At 9:52, we heard footsteps on the stairs. The door opened. Daniel came in first. He was wearing a gray suit, a dark tie as if he were going to a funeral. His eyes were sunken red from lack of sleep, and behind him came Emily. But not the confident, arrogant Emily I was used to. This Emily was wearing a conservative navy blue dress. No cleavage, no stilettos, low heels, little makeup, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked like a scolded child. She saw me and immediately looked away. Interesting. "Good morning," Daniel said in a hoarse voice. "Good morning," I replied. They sat on the other side of the table, Mr. Hector at the head. Megan took documents out of her briefcase with precise professional movements. "All right, Mr." Hector began putting on his glasses. "We are here to resolve a situation of property and occupancy. Mrs. Beatrice is the legal owner of the property located at—" "We know," Emily interrupted. Her voice was tense. "We already know everything." Megan raised an eyebrow. "Oh, you do? Do you know that my client has invested $136,800 in that property?" "Yes." and that you have technically been living without a lease for 3 years. Emily clenched her fists in her lap. Yes, and that my client has the legal right to request immediate eviction, collect back rent, and sue for moral damages. At that, Emily looked up. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. Yes, we know everything. The silence that followed was thick. Daniel cleared his throat. Mom, I listened to the recordings. All of them. His voice cracked. All 17. It took me 4 hours, and each one destroyed me a little more. Emily closed her eyes. I didn't know, Daniel continued, looking directly at me. I had no idea about the things Emily was saying about you behind your back. Daniel, Emily mumbled. No. He cut her off with a harshness I had never heard from him. You are not going to minimize this. Not now. He turned back to me. Mom, I heard how she talked about you with her friends, how she made fun of you, how she planned— God. He ran his hands over his face. How she planned to convince me to send you to a nursing home when you were no longer useful. Emily sobbed. No, I didn't mean it. It was frustration. It didn't mean— You didn't mean it. Daniel's voice rose. There's a recording from October where you tell your sister and I, quote, as soon as the old woman gets sick or starts with dementia, we'll send her to a cheap nursing home and keep the whole house. You didn't mean that either. Emily's face crumpled. Megan, smelling blood in the water, took out her laptop. Would you like to listen to the recordings here in the presence of the notary? I have certified copies. No, Emily said quickly. That's not necessary. Oh, I think it is, Megan said with a shark-like smile. Because my client not only has recordings, she also has witness statements from neighbors about the treatment she received, photographs of humiliating messages, and a detailed record of psychological abuse and financial exploitation. Emily turned completely pale. Financial exploitation, Megan repeated, is a crime, especially when it involves senior citizens. We could not only win the house, Mrs. Ruiz, we could take this to criminal court. No. Emily stood up abruptly. Please, that's not necessary. I'll do whatever it takes. Sit down, Daniel ordered. Emily collapsed back into her chair, trembling. Mr. Hector, who had observed everything in silence, spoke in a grave voice. Mrs. Emily, I have known Mrs. Beatrice for 30 years. She is a woman of honor, and you forgive my frankness, treated her like dirt. Emily buried her face in her hands. I know, she moaned. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're sorry, I finally asked. My voice came out colder than I expected. Are you sorry you humiliated me? Or are you sorry you got caught? She looked up. Mascara was running down her cheeks. I'm sorry for both. I'm sorry. She took a shaky breath. I'm sorry I was cruel. I'm sorry I treated you like a servant. And I'm sorry I was exposed like this because it forced me to see the monster I became. That surprised me. I expected excuses, justifications, not self-criticism. Emily continued, wiping her tears with trembling hands. I grew up poor, Mrs. Beatrice, very poor. My mother worked as a maid her whole life, and when I managed to get out of that poverty, when I got my career and my position, I think I became exactly what I hated most. The employers who treated my mother badly. Her voice broke completely. And the worst part is, I did it to you, to the woman who helped us get a house, who took care of my children, who gave me a home. I was the worst version of myself with you. Daniel looked at her with a mixture of pain and disappointment. Why? He asked. Why did you treat her like that if you knew how your own mother felt? Because I was afraid, Emily admitted between sobs. Afraid the kids would love you more. Afraid Daniel would see that you were a better mother, a better cook, better at everything. Afraid of being seen as the useless daughter-in-law who needs her mother-in-law to keep her house running. She closed her eyes. So I treated you badly, to feel superior, to remind myself that I was the lady of the house, the one in charge, the successful one. And you were just the mother-in-law living with us. She turned to me, her eyes red and swollen. But it wasn't my house. It was your house, the one you paid for, the one you built, and I was so stupid, so blind, so cruel that I didn't see it until you left." Megan looked at me, waiting for my signal. I knew she wanted to destroy Emily legally. She had all the elements to do it. But something in Emily's confession in her broken voice made me pause. "Does your mother know how you treated me?" I asked. Emily shook her head. "If she found out, she would disown me. She adores grandmothers. She always told me, treat your mother-in-law how you would want your own mother to be treated." "Wise advice," I said coldly. "Too bad you didn't listen." "I know." Mr. Hector drummed his fingers on his desk. "Well, we need to resolve the practical situation. Mrs. Beatrice has 3 legal options." Megan spread documents on the table. Option 1, immediate eviction. You have 30 days to vacate the property. Mrs. Beatrice gets her house back. Emily paled. Option 2, full purchase. You pay Mrs. Beatrice $136,800 within a period not exceeding 90 days. The deed is transferred. The house becomes legally yours. Daniel shook his head. "We don't have that kind of money, not even close." Option 3, Megan said, and looked at me. This was my idea, the one we had discussed. Property division and cohabitation agreement. "What does that mean?" Daniel asked. I took a deep breath. This was the moment. "It means we legally divide the house. I get 60% of the property. You get 40%, registered with the notary with all the legal force." "But," Emily frowned, confused. 60-40, that means... "It means the house will still be more in my name than yours. But you will have something. You won't be on the street." "And where would you live?" Daniel asked. "I'm not going back to that house," I said firmly. "I'm staying where I am, but my 60% comes with conditions." Megan unfolded another document. "Mrs. Beatrice will rent her percentage of the house to a family she personally selects, tenants who will live in the house with you. You will share common spaces. They will pay a monthly rent of $850 that will go directly to Mrs. Beatrice." Emily's eyes widened. You want us to live with strangers. "I want you to learn how it feels to share your space with someone you didn't choose," I replied. "I want you to understand the discomfort, the lack of privacy, having to be nice to people who are in your house." Daniel understood immediately, "Like how you felt with us." "Exactly." "And the other condition?" he asked. "Family therapy," I said. "Daniel, you and I will go to therapy once a week for 6 months. I'll pay for the first 10 sessions. You pay for the rest, without Emily. Just the 2 of us." My son had tears in his eyes. "You would do that? After everything, you would still want to fix our relationship?" "You're my son," I said, my voice trembling. "You made terrible mistakes. You failed me, but you're my son, and I'm not going to give up on you without trying." Daniel stood up, walked around the table, and knelt in front of me. "Forgive me, Mom. Please forgive me." I held him and cried with him. Emily watched from her chair, destroyed. "And me?" she asked in a small voice. "Is there anything I can do to earn your forgiveness?" I looked at her directly. "You can start by treating the tenants I'm going to put in your house well. You can start by valuing what you have. And you can start by teaching my grandchildren that respect is not optional." She nodded, wiping her tears. "I will. I promise you." Mr. Hector prepared the documents. Property division 60-40. Lease agreement for my portion. Protection clauses. Everything legal, everything sealed. When we left that office 2 hours later, I was free. And them. They had a lesson that would last for years. Because sometimes justice isn't about destruction. Sometimes it's about making you live with the consequences of your actions every single day. 2 weeks after that meeting at the notary's office, I was sitting in a cafe in Coyoacan with Teresa Campos, a 52-year-old widowed elementary school teacher. She had 2 children, Miguel, 14, and Andrea, 11. She had been looking for a place for 3 years after her husband died in a car accident, and she had to sell their condo to pay medical debts. Mrs. Beatrice, Teresa said with hopeful eyes. "Are you sure you want to rent us part of your house? With 2 teenagers, we make a lot of noise." "I'm completely sure," I replied, sipping my coffee. "And please, call me Beatrice." I explained the situation. Everything. I didn't lie or omit details. Teresa needed to know what she was getting into. When I finished, she was silent for a long moment. "So," she said finally, "you want my family and me to be your living lesson for your son and daughter-in-law." "I want," I corrected, "you to have a decent home, and yes, for my relatives to learn some empathy along the way." Teresa smiled. "Sounds fair. When can we move in?" A week later, on April 1st, the moving truck arrived at 847 Jurists Circuit. I went to supervise. It was my right as a co-owner. Emily opened the door. When she saw me, her face went through 10 different emotions, but she forced a smile. "Mother-in-law, come in." "Beatrice," I corrected. "Call me Beatrice." "Beatrice," she repeated, swallowing hard. Behind me were Teresa, Miguel, and Andrea. The kids looked at the house with wide eyes. "It's huge," Andrea murmured. "It's nice," Miguel agreed. Daniel appeared from the kitchen. He looked better than at the notary's office, but he still carried guilt in his eyes. "Mom," he greeted me. Then he looked at Teresa. "You must be Mrs. Campos." "Teresa is fine," she said, extending her hand. "Thank you for having us." "We didn't have a choice," Emily muttered so quietly it was almost inaudible. Almost. I looked at her pointedly. She looked down. "I'm sorry. That was an unnecessary comment. Welcome to the house." I showed them the rooms that were assigned to them according to the agreement. A large bedroom for Teresa, a smaller one for Miguel and Andrea would share with Sarah by the girls' own decision. "I really get to share with someone," Sarah had said when we proposed it. "I've always wanted a sister." The kitchen, living room, and dining room would be shared spaces. That's where things got interesting. That first night, Teresa made dinner, green chicken enchiladas. The smell filled the house. Emily came downstairs looking confused. "What's that smell?" "Dinner," Teresa said cheerfully. "I made extra if you'd like to join us." I saw Emily's face, that look of "this is my kitchen," of "I didn't invite you to cook here," but she bit her tongue because she knew it wasn't just her kitchen anymore. "Thank you," she said with effort. "It sounds delicious." They all ate together. Daniel, Emily, Michael, Sarah, Teresa, Miguel, and Andrea. A full table of strangers learning to live together. Michael and Miguel bonded over video games. Sarah and Andrea became inseparable in 30 minutes. Children don't have adult prejudices. But Emily picked at her food in silence, uncomfortable at her own table. And I, sitting at Linda's house 2 miles away, imagined the scene with a smile. The weeks passed. Daniel and I started therapy. The first day was devastating. We both cried for the entire session. "I let her get lost," he told the therapist. "I let our bond break because it was easier to keep the peace with Emily than to defend you. And I let it happen," I admitted, "because I was afraid of being alone. I was afraid that if I protested, they would kick me out and I'd have nowhere to go." The therapist, Dr. Montero, looked at us with compassion. "Fear makes us allow intolerable things," she said, "but you two still have a chance to rebuild." And slowly, session by session, we began to do just that. Daniel started calling me, not just for matters about the house or the agreement. He called to ask how I was, what I had eaten, if I had slept well. Simple things he hadn't done in 3 years. One day he showed up at Linda's house with flowers. "Just because," he said, "because you're my mom and I love you." I cried holding those flowers all afternoon. Meanwhile, at the house and the community cohabitation created revealing situations. Teresa told me everything in our weekly calls. Yesterday, Emily got upset because Miguel used too much hot water in his shower. Teresa told me, laughing. I politely reminded her that we pay our rent on time and are entitled to hot water. She turned red but didn't say anything else. "And Daniel?" "Daniel is kind. He helps. On Saturday he played soccer with Miguel and Michael in the yard. I think he's learning." There were also beautiful moments. Andrea was having trouble with math. Emily, who was an engineer by training, helped her with her homework without anyone asking. "Thank you, Mrs. Emily," Andrea had said with a smile. And Emily Teresa told me started crying afterward, because for the first time in months, someone had sincerely thanked her for something. The children, of course, were the easy part of this whole equation. Sarah had a new best friend. Michael had an older brother figure who taught him bike tricks. And both in their childhood innocence were rebuilding bridges that the adults had burned. One Sunday, a month after the move, Daniel invited me over for lunch. "At the house," he said. "Teresa is making mole. She says it's your favorite." I hesitated. "Mom," Daniel pleaded, "please. The kids miss you, and I need you to see that I'm trying." I went. I entered that house with my heart pounding. I hadn't been there since the night I left. Everything looked the same but different. There were Andrea's drawings on the fridge, Miguel's bike on the porch. Voices, laughter, life. "Grandma!" Sarah ran to hug me. "You came?" Michael hugged me too taller than I remembered. "I missed you, Grandma." Teresa greeted me with a hug. "Come in, Beatrice. Your house, your table." Emily was in the kitchen. She saw me and nervously wiped her hands on her apron. "Beatrice," she said, "thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me." We looked at each other, two women who had been at war, two women who were not yet friends, but who were learning to coexist. "The mole smells delicious," I said. "Teresa taught me her recipe," Emily admitted. "It's better than mine." It was the first time I heard her admit that someone did something better than her. We all sat down to eat. 11 people around one table. Miguel told a joke. Andrea sang a song she learned in school. Michael showed off his grades. Sarah showed a drawing she made of her new big family. We were all in the drawing. Teresa, her kids, Daniel, Emily, their kids, and me in the center with a crown drawn on my head. "You're the Queen Grandma," Sarah explained, "because you made us all be together." I broke down. I cried in front of everyone. Daniel took my hand. "Thank you, Mom, for not giving up on us." "Thank you," I whispered, "for finally seeing me again." After lunch, Emily asked to speak with me alone. We went out to the small backyard, the same one where I used to hang the laundry. "Beatrice," she began in a trembling voice, "I know I have no right to ask you for anything. I know I hurt you in unforgivable ways. But I want you to know that I'm in therapy, individual therapy, working on my insecurities, my need for control, everything." "I'm glad," I said sincerely. "Teresa is teaching me a lot," she continued, "about humility, about gratitude. She lost her husband, she lost her house, and she still smiles every day. She's grateful for what she has. And I had everything and I never stopped complaining." She wiped away a tear. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking you to let me try to be better, to see that I'm trying." I looked at her. This woman who had made me invisible, who planned to get rid of me, who humiliated me for 3 years. But I also saw a broken woman trying to put herself back together. Forgiveness, I told her, isn't asked for. It's earned. With actions, with time, with real change. I know, and I'm willing to see if you can achieve it. Her face lit up with hope. "Really? Really? But Emily, if you ever treat anyone in that house badly again, if you ever go back to being the cruel person you were with me, this agreement is over. Understood. Understood." 6 months later, in October, things had changed drastically. Daniel and I had a rebuilt relationship. It wasn't perfect, but it was real honest. We saw each other twice a week, talked on the phone. He actually asked for my opinion, not just out of politeness. Emily had improved a lot. She was still proud, but she had learned to restrain herself to be grateful to share. One day she called me. "Beatrice, could we get coffee, just the two of us?" I agreed, curious. We met at a neutral Starbucks. "I want to offer you something," Emily said, taking papers out of her bag. "I've been saving, and I spoke with the bank. I can get a loan." She slid the papers toward me. "I want to buy your 60% of the house. Over 5 years with monthly payments of $2,300. It's all calculated here with fair interest." I was silent, reading. "Why?" I asked. "Because it's the right thing to do," she said simply. "It's your house, your investment, your sacrifice. And we've been living off your generosity for too long." "I thought you wanted to keep the house for free," I said with an ironic smile. "The Emily from a year ago did. she admitted. Today's Emily wants to earn things, wants to pay what she owes, wants to sleep without guilt. I looked at the numbers. It was a fair offer, very fair. And Teresa and her kids, we offered to let them stay as our official tenants if you agree to sell, with a real contract fair rent. They accepted. The kids are inseparable. And Teresa has become my friend, my external conscience. I smiled. Okay, I said. I accept. Emily exhaled, relieved. Thank you for giving me this chance, for not destroying us when you could have. I gain nothing by destroying you, Emily. I gain by seeing my family heal. Today, a year and 3 months after that night, I left with my suitcase. I'm sitting in my small rented apartment in downtown Coyoacan. I'm 69 years old. I teach knitting classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the community center. I go to therapy once a month for myself. I go for walks with Linda every morning. Daniel comes to visit me every Sunday. Sometimes he brings the kids. Sometimes he comes alone and we cook together like when he was a boy. Emily sends me texts every now and then, pictures of the kids' recipes. She's tried small gestures that show she's trying. Teresa and I are close friends. Her kids call me Aunt Betty. And the $850 in rent I receive each month, plus the $2,300 from Emily's payment plan, allow me to live with dignity, with independence, with peace. Did I get my family back? Not completely. Some wounds left permanent scars. But I got something more important back. I got myself back. I got my name back, my voice, my right to be treated with respect. And I learned that sometimes the most important love isn't the one you give. It's the one you give yourself. Last week, Sarah gave me a new drawing. It was me standing in front of a house with a suitcase in my hand and a smile on my face. Underneath, she wrote in uneven letters, "My Grandma Beatrice, the bravest woman I know, because she knew when to leave and when she was ready to come back." I have it framed in my living room. Because that 7-year-old girl understood what many adults never do. Staying where you're hurt isn't love, it's habit. And breaking that habit, even if it hurts, even if it's scary, even if it makes you feel selfish, is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. Today, I sleep peacefully in my own bed, in my own space, in my own life. And when I look in the mirror, I finally see what I was searching for 3 years. A visible woman, a valuable woman, a free woman. It's Sunday afternoon. I'm in the park in Coyoacan with Michael and Sarah. We bought corn ice cream and sat under a tree. "Grandma," says Michael, now 11, and with a voice that's starting to change, "do you regret leaving that night?" "Never," I answer without hesitation. Not even a little bit, not even a little bit, because leaving saved me. It reminded me who I was before I became invisible. Sarah, with ice cream on her nose, asks, "And are you happy now?" I lift her onto my lap, even though she's getting big. Now I'm happy, because I'm where I choose to be, not where I'm tolerated. Daniel shows up with coffee for me. He sits beside me. "The kids ask me if we can do this every Sunday," he says. "Park ice cream time with Grandma." "I'd love that." My son smiles, that sincere smile I hadn't seen in years. "Mom, I know I say it a lot, but thank you for not giving up on us, for teaching us the hardest lesson we needed." "You're welcome, son. Do you know what my therapist told me last week?" "What?" "She said what I did wasn't revenge. It was restorative justice. Because you made us face the consequences without destroying us. You gave us a chance to change." Your therapist is wise. We stay there under that tree watching the kids run, and I think of all the women who wrote to me after my Facebook post, the ones who found the courage to leave, the ones who set boundaries, the ones who reclaimed their dignity, and I understand that my story was never just mine. It belonged to all of us, the invisible ones, the exploited ones, the ones who gave everything hoping for crumbs of respect in return. Because true wealth isn't in what you own, it's in what you don't allow to be taken from you. And I, Beatrice Socorro Mendoza, widow of Torres, 69 years old, got my soul back, and no one will ever steal that from me again. If this story touched your heart, if it made you reflect on self-worth, Or if you know someone who needs to hear it, leave me a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. And if you've ever had to choose between staying where you're hurt or leaving to save yourself, like if this story reminded you that it's never too late to reclaim your dignity. And subscribe to the channel, because here we will continue to share real-life stories of brave men and women who chose to respect themselves. Because at the end of the day, the most important lesson is this: love that doesn't include respect isn't love. It's habit, and habits that hurt you are meant to be broken. The end.